Antipodes, Chapter 29, Part 2. Before they even entered the main chamber, Jigsaw could hear the splashing. As he pushed open the ornately carved stone door, he couldn't help but smile. From every household, ponies were celebrating. Unicorns ran through the streets, some levitating huge buckets over their heads to catch the water pouring from every faucet. Others foregoing even that and levitating amorphous blobs of water collected from nearby fountains. Earth ponies drank greedily from the watered troughs lining some of the houses. What few Pegasi were left did loops in the air over the chamber, their water-soaked fur dripping onto the bystanders like rain. Foals frolicked in the fountains, playfully splashing water on each other. Tears of joy formed in Jigsaw's eyes, and he swallowed hard, trying to get rid of the lump in his throat. It didn't last long. One of the earth ponies, a sky-blue mare, caught sight of the three of them entering the chamber, and the smile vanished from her face. She stumbled backwards, eyes locked on Jigsaw, before she whipped around and began galloping in the opposite direction, towards the central spire of rock that jutted out from the middle of the room.
"What was that about?"
Tiptoe said, cocking her head to one side. As if in answer to her question, a moment later the blue mare came trotting back up towards the trio with an elderly pony in tow.
"Starburst!"
Jigsaw and Tiptoe gasped in unison.
"Who's Starburst?"
Incendia whispered to Jigsaw.
"One of the tribunal."
Jigsaw whispered back.
"I thought they were all dead."
Starburst was dressed in a tattered red cloth that had clearly been regal and stately once. His dark gray skin was dried and cracked, but a sheen of water glistened on his lips.
"Jigsaw, Tiptoe,"
he said, his voice quavering. "Come with me."
"What about Incendia?"
Tiptoe inquired.
"We're not going without her."
"She is part of this too. Bring her." Starburst replied. He turned and began to trot slowly back towards the pillar of shaped stone. The trickling of water and the lapping tongues of thirsty ponies continued, but gasps of shock and horror, as well as hushed whispers, replaced the sounds of celebration as the trio made their way down the main chamber. The three ponies reached the base of the tower and Starburst pushed the door open, bathing them in the light of the magical torches that burned on the walls. In spite of the strange situation he was in, Jigsaw was struck by the fact that his old office was only a few floors down from him right now. He wondered if it had been destroyed in the intervening time.
"Come to the tribunal chamber,"
Starburst said.
"There is a very important matter we must attend to."
The tribunal chamber was a circular room, located in the dead center of the tower. 9 wooden seats, the only wooden constructs in the entire cave system to have survived the centuries, were arranged in a semicircle around the wall opposite the doorway. Ordinarily, the tribunal members sat there, 3 of each race, and made decisions that affected the lives of those living in the caves. Now, however, all that seemed to be left was Starburst, who took a weary seat in the central chair.
"Jigsaw, do you remember me?"
he asked.
"Yes, of course,"
Jigsaw said.
"You were on the tribunal. Are there any more left?"
"It's just me, I'm afraid," Starburst confirmed sadly.
"The hydration isn't any less harsh on rulers, I'm afraid."
Jigsaw shifted uncomfortably.
"Jigsaw, I brought you in here for one reason. Punishment."
Jigsaw blinked dumbfoundedly.
"What do you mean punishment? We just fixed the problem. The water's flowing again."
I know, Starburst said.
"But do you think they're just going to forget what happened? Every one of us lost loved ones. We saw our very society collapse around us, and the public needed a scapegoat, someone to blame for it, to keep order. What are you saying? Jigsaw asked, his voice strained with the effort of containing his anger. We, the tribunal, decided to blame you. Can you blame us? You went missing that day. It was too convenient to pass up.
Jigsaw's control broke.
So you decided to pin the blame on me? Let me become a monster in their eyes to stop them killing one another. What did you tell them? Did you say I deliberately sabotaged the water pumps?
This time, it was Starburst's turn to look uncomfortable.
Well, did it work?
Jigsaw snapped.
Did it stop them?
Of course not, Starburst murmured. I'm not saying it was right. I just want you to understand.
Why didn't you blame Tiptoe then?
Jigsaw demanded.
Relations between the Pegasi and the other two races were tense before the drought. If we blame this on one, the other races might attack. The official story painted her as an unwitting accomplice. So what happens now?
Jigsaw asked harshly.
They're going to want your blood in exchange for the lives that were lost during the drought,
Starburst said bluntly. Jigsaw was so stunned he couldn't speak. Tiptoe, however, managed to squeak out,
Execution? I'm not going to allow it,
Starburst said solemnly.
I don't want any more innocent blood on my hooves. However, I can't let you stay either. The best I can do is exile you. I don't know how you came to be here from the surface, and truth be told, I'd rather not know. Go back where you came from and leave us alone, or else my power will not be able to protect you again.
Tiptoe stared at the gray earth pony in stunned silence.
So is this the thanks that I get? He said quietly. I just risked my own life and the life of my friends to correct a horrible accident, and this is my repayment? It isn't right, Starburst said with a sigh. I know, but it's the only way to keep the peace. Fine!
Tiptoe shouted so loudly and unexpectedly that both Jigsaw and Starburst jumped in surprise.
I suppose this is what I should expect. Being a Pegasus down here, I never got the same treatment as any pony else, and now I'm being exiled for saving the lives of every pony that's left? Fine, I don't want to stay.
A few seconds of stunned silence followed Tiptoe's outburst, broken only by Starburst rising from his chair.
It has to be a public affair to have the effect it needs. Please follow me, and...
Starburst sighed again.
I'm truly sorry.
The trio followed Starburst out in front of the pillar of stone, where a few dozen ponies had gathered to watch the announcement.
Jigsaw and his cohorts have committed the worst crime imaginable, the shirking of duty to his community. Due to his actions, hundreds lie dead. Crimes of this magnitude have only one sentence: death.
The crowd began stamping their hooves and cheering.
However,
Starburst called over the din.
Due to their work on the water system, I have decided to spare them the death penalty.
The crowd grew silent and still as statues.
Instead, I have decided they are to be exiled, never allowed into our home again.
The crowd's reaction was instant. Disapproving years and boos filled the room.
Kill them!
Shouted a stallion.
An eye for an eye!
Yelled the mayor.
Silence!
Starburst shouted.
My word is final. They are to leave the way they came and never return. You are to allow them safe passage to the surface.
The crowd parted reluctantly and allowed the trio to make their way to the exit of the main chamber. As they passed through the ornate carved doors, Jigsaw glanced over his shoulder to get one final glance at his home. What he saw was the face of every pony he had ever known staring back at him, hatred etched in their faces. The sunlight blinded the trio as they stepped out of the cave. Thankfully, the protective shield of the airship was still operational, and the intense sunlight was relegated to a mere annoyance. As they reached the base of the airship, Jigsaw sunk to his haunches and began to shake. Tears fell from his eyes and onto the thirsty ground below, knocked loose by his ragged, shallow breathing.
Jigsaw, are you all right?
Incendia asked softly.
What do you think?
He snapped back.
That was my home back there, Incendia. Every pony I ever knew is dead or thinks I'm some kind of mass murderer. Not everyone,
Tiptoe said, sitting down next to him and gently nuzzling his neck.
You still have me.
Though Jigsaw allowed her to gently rub her head against his neck, he made no effort to respond. After a few moments, he managed to stop the flow of tears and his breathing slowed.
Wasn't there supposed to be a fragment here?
Jigsaw said.
Wasn't that the whole reason we...
As if on cue, a blinding flash of light that outshone even the sun itself gleamed from the mouth of the pit, hundreds of feet up. Slowly, a swirling ball of pure white light, like a miniature sun, began to lower itself into the pit before finally coming to a rest at Jigsaw's hooves.
Are you serious?
Jigsaw shouted at the sphere.
After all we just went through, you appear now. I just got kicked out of my home. Incendia nearly died. We all nearly died, and it was for nothing. It wasn't for nothing,
Incendia assured him.
You saved the lives of every pony that was left. So what?
Jigsaw snapped back.
There can't be more than 50 of them left. You can't sustain a breeding population with that few specimens. They'd all be dead in a few generations anyway. All we did was delay the inevitable.
Neither Incendia nor Tiptoe conjured a response.
And what was it for?
Jigsaw was screaming at the sphere now, tears once again rolling down his face.
What do you want from me? What do I have to do? Tell me! You can help me heal Tiptoe and you can teleport me halfway around the world. But you can just tell me why? What is Tantalus really? Why is any of this happening to me?
Jigsaw backed away from the sphere a few steps and sobbed. Then, without warning, he charged at the serene sphere, the tip of his horn impaling the swirling surface of the fragment. Instantly, Jigsaw was lifted off his feet as a tornado of light surrounded him. Yellow and white light from the sphere spiraled around Jigsaw, flowing into his horn, which glowed so brightly that Incendia and Tiptoe had to look away. Within moments it was over. The white halo of light began to fade from Jigsaw's horn as he gently floated to the ground. When his hooves finally touched earth again, Jigsaw turned to face the airship and let out one more strangled cry of defeat. Gingerly Tiptoe approached him.
Are you going to be okay?
She asked, so softly that Jigsaw could barely hear her. I don't know, Tiptoe. I really don't, Jigsaw said dully.
Let's get inside,
Tiptoe said.
There's fresh food and water in there. It will help clear your head.
Robotically, Jigsaw nodded and shuffled up the small staircase into the lobby of the airship. Incendia and Tiptoe followed behind, glancing nervously between each other.